SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now
here we are, middle of the week, 23rd of April, Wednesday morning. Hello, friends. Good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Couldn't do it alone. Alongside me, Lance Tolbert. Good morning, sir.
Buenos dias. It was a late night last night for baseball, wasn't it?
You know, yesterday was a day where I was able to work ahead a little bit and kind of finished all the prep work that I needed to do or that I wanted to do for the show this morning. Going to go to bed earlier than normal. And then we get extra innings baseball on a Tuesday night.
Can't beat it, man. A little free ball, about 10 o'clock, 10:30. Man, it was hard to keep the eyes open in that tent. I'll be honest. I was like, after a day of rain and you had sent the breakdown, I had buzzed through that, and I'm like, man, he is on top of it. And
ready to go.
I was ready, and then it went to extras. But it was a game of big plays. It really was.
It was.
Fun game to watch, and great for the fans that had to sit there and endure about an hour rain delay. So,
yeah, they were in the top of the second inning, and then a lightning bolt popped kind of close, and they had to take everybody off the field, and then a little bit of light rain, and then get the tarp off and get it all ready to go. And it took a while. I was talking to a buddy during the rain delay that was there last night, and he said, man, I'm driving home after the ball game. It's going to be a 1 o'clock night, isn't it? It may have been more like a 1:30 night or a 2 o'clock night when it was all said and done. I
don't know how long the Belhaven baseball team had to hang out because they're the grounds crew.
That's right.
And so they had a late one too. I know the broadcasting crew, Dixon was up here late. The players, what a game though. I mean, again, you hate to see either of those lose that one, but what did Ole Miss use? 18 pitchers?
It was a bunch.
Yeah, I was like, man, he might be calling the softball coach here for long. Bring a heater over. Come on.
It was a bunch. In this transition from the afternoons to the mornings over the last few months, I have noticed something. With sports talk in the afternoons, Lance, Monday was a pretty easy day, just to be perfectly honest. Because in the sports world, everything happens on the weekends. Now you get midweek games and, Thursday night football games, and basketball happens all week long. But especially during football season, you know what you're talking about on Monday morning, right? The games that happened, the way they unfolded, the storylines, the recaps, quotes, clips, all that stuff on Monday morning. But in the news world, in the political world, though the music never really stops, it seems to slow down on the weekends. Our elected officials like to slip away for the weekends, as they certainly should, but Mondays are a little bit slow. But the last 2 days, I've kind of looked at the rundown, and I've got extra stuff, and I'm going, we could use an extra hour or two today because there is a lot going on and a lot to get to. And I'll tell you this, I have there is an occupation that is joked about and made fun of more than any other occupation on planet Earth, I believe. And that is the legal profession. The lawyers are butts of more jokes than any other profession out there, I think. And The old saying is you may not care for lawyers until you need one, and then you want them on speed dial. I have a newfound respect for lawyers who are able to keep up with the number of briefs that come from judges and stuff that has to be filed and filed from the other side and all the stuff that you've got to read. I have read more legal opinions, I feel like, in the last month than I've read in my entire lifetime. How do you do this all day, every day for a living?
AI. I mean, nowadays, yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I honestly, you want to shortcut it as much as you can.
But then you just on X, you say, at Grok, what does this mean? Explain it for a fifth grader.
Please, yeah. What are we dealing with here? Give me the complexities in first grader terminology. That would be me using Grok. All right, what am I reading here? Please tell me. I sent you a really cool graph that was showing the political leanings of both the Chat GPT and OpenAI, or Grok, I should say, yeah. And so that was pretty fascinating. So you hope that the lawyers are using the one that's most centered, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, go figure that even artificial intelligence is biased.
It is biased. Well, people make it, so.
It's going to be a pretty decent spring day across the state of Mississippi. New Albany, you've got showers perhaps this morning, then cloudy in the afternoon with a high of 78 and light winds. Your chance of rain about 30% in New Albany, right there at the trailhead of the Tanglefoot. In Vaden today, rain showers early, mostly cloudy later in the day. You're going to knock on the door of 80 degrees, might get there. Winds light and variable, a 40% chance of rain. Summerall, a little farther south, scattered thunderstorms developing this afternoon, high of 83, 50% chance of rain. And in Pass Christian, down in beautiful coastal Mississippi, partly cloudy today, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. High of 78 degrees, winds out of the southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So not bad all in all. Chance for some rain for much of the state, but it's just a chance. And this was one of those weeks where if you looked at the forecast going into the week, you're like, oh man, it's going to rain every day. Just raining for a little while, and then pretty nice out.
Yeah, the weather's been good too afterwards. It hasn't been too humid. Bugs have been kind of washed away. The pollen's all right.
We've already got skeeters. Yeah,
the skeeters, though. I've had to kill a couple of those lately, and they seem to be pretty hungry at the moment. So be careful. Get you skeeter people out or whatever you use. Seems like it might be a skeeter year.
English poet and playwright William Shakespeare was born on this day in 1564. The author of Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Hamlet. This is traditionally regarded as William Shakespeare's birth date, although exact date uncertain. He was born in Stratford-upon-Avon. I'm glad that we don't have upon as part of our hometowns really anymore.
Yeah, they got it's pretty complicated over there.
Yeah, it'd be like Oxford-upon-Hill.
Upon-Hill with big water tower.
Yeah. Greenwood along Levee. Warren Spahn was born on this day in 1921. The Hall of Fame pitcher was a 17-time All-Star. Won a World Series in 1957. He was the Cy Young winner that year as well. 8 different years he led the National League in wins. Pitched with the Boston and Milwaukee Braves, originally born in Buffalo, New York. Shirley Temple, born on this day in 1928. American actress. She was quite the famous child star. Led the way from Macaulay Culkin. Bright Eyes, Heidi among the films. And a diplomat as well when it was all said and done. Born in Santa Monica, California. Are you a wrestling guy?
Oh, yeah. I like some Cena. I'm more of an old school wrestler. I grew up with the Hulkamaniacs and Rowdy Roddy and all them.
John Cena is 47 years old today. And I guess he's the world heavyweight champion. I think that's what happened.
And, actor, too. He's been in a bunch of movies lately.
Yeah.
Hey, and don't forget about this actor. Some kind of wonderful Nightbreed. I don't know if anybody would remember those, but Craig Sheffer, 65 years old. What is one of the movies that you remember him from? I can tell you. The Program with Omar Epps, Craig Sheffer. Great.
Yeah.
Would you have Buffy the Vampire Slayer was in that one too? Great cast. Football movie. He's 65 today.
Pretty talented musician was born on this day as well.
Pretty woman walking down the street. Pretty woman, the kind I like to meet. Pretty woman, I don't believe you. You're not the truth. No one could look as good as you.
Born in Vernon, Texas.
What a voice.
1936, American rock singer-songwriter Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman, Only the Lonely, Traveling Wilburys, Handle with Care. Passed away in 1988. A couple of interesting things happened on this day. In 1516, a while ago, the German beer purity law came into effect. Duke Wilhelm IV of Bavaria endorses the German beer purity law and adds to it standards for the sale of beer in Bavaria, ensuring beer is only brewed from 3 ingredients. Do you know those 3 ingredients?
Mm-hmm.
Water, barley, and hops.
Got to thank that guy, Duke Wilhelm. Thank you, man.
Attaboy, Duke.
I appreciate that.
Good work. This day in 1954, Hank Aaron hit the first of his 755 home runs. A couple of other things happened on this day in history. We'll get to those with you coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glove.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us. A little bit later this morning, Peter Costa will join us, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, market analyst with CNBC. Talk about what's going on Wall Street and how it affects you and us. We'll do that just after the beginning of the 7 o'clock hour. Kelly Bennett from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team will be along at 8:30 this morning. We'll get a recap of yesterday's municipal elections and look at some of those results. Today in 1985, new Coke debuted. Coca-Cola announced that it was changing the secret flavor formula. It was not well received. It was gross. And Coca-Cola Classic would make a comeback before too terribly much longer. Man, that was a big deal.
Yeah, I remember that. I grew up on Coca-Cola. Then they break out this new Coke thing, and it was terrible. I was a kid, too. Like, what are they doing to us?
Mm-hmm.
At least they had the backbone to say, we messed up. I'm sorry.
Disney World broke ground for their Victorian-themed Grand Floridian Beach Resort on this day in 1986. Beautiful structure. It's part of the Walt Disney World complex in the greater Orlando area. In 1989, wine merchant William Sokolin broke a bottle of 1787 Chateau Margaux, possibly belonging to Thomas Jefferson. The value of that bottle of wine, which was, they were attempting to serve it at the Four Seasons restaurant in New York, $500,000.
Yeah, I would have been getting the drops, even if it broke. It was like, give me a little taste of that on my lips.
Could I get a straw?
That was spoon, straw, whatever. Hey, just give me the tablecloth. I'm in. Got to taste that. $500,000 bottle of wine.
And finally, on this day in 2005, the world changed forever. I think.
Yeah.
The co-founder of YouTube, Jawed Karim, uploaded the first video to YouTube He titled it "Me at the Zoo." What was the video? It was him at the zoo in San Diego, standing in front of the elephant saying, "Hey, behind me, look at the elephants. You know what's cool about the elephants? They've got really long trunks. That's really cool." 355 million views later. That video is still there, along with millions of others hosted on YouTube.
Well, it is revolutionary. I know that. I can't tell you how much I've used it over the years. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, though, right? Yeah. The world definitely changed. Everything's accessible, and you can think, oh, Jawed, way back in 2005 for that. But, yeah, I mean, I love YouTube. I don't know about you, but I use it an awful lot for research.
You certainly can go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know where you're going either. That's the thing.
That's right. That's right. I asked Jane last night. It's like 2005 wasn't that long ago, was it? She's like, no. I was like, it's a lot's happened since 2005.
Perspective, right? Ooh.
State Senator John Horn defeated current mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Antar Lumumba. The days of tub thumping are soon going to be in the rear view mirror. There are comfortable wins. There are landslides, and then there's whatever that was yesterday. An avalanche?
Yeah, it's hollering from the top of Mount Everest, "I won!" And everybody down at the bottom.
John Horn got 75% of the vote yesterday, more than 12,000 votes separating him and the incumbent. That's according to unofficial results. They are still counting a few ballots this morning. Hundreds of supporters welcomed the longtime state senators. He and his father made their way to the stage, with Horn's wife and the family following along. John Horn ran on a platform of promising change and accountability in the capital city. He received many endorsements leading up to the runoff election. Raised over $100,000 in the 3 weeks between the April 1st primary and yesterday's runoff, backed by local business leaders, large church pastors, Jackson's fire union, and federal players like Congressman Benny Thompson, Secretary of Agriculture Mike Espy. 75% of the vote.
Yeah,
there's a mandate for you.
You got it, buddy. And
now go do work.
Right.
Although there's work still to be done from an election standpoint, as John Horn will face one Republican and multiple independents in the general election that comes up on June 3rd. But he is clearly the front runner. I don't remember. It may have been Mose. Maybe it was somebody else that made the prediction a few weeks ago that Horn was going to win with at least 65% of the vote. Well, he did, plus another 10%. A dominant win for State Senator John Horn in the Jackson mayoral election. We'll have results from some of the other municipal elections coming up for you later in the show this morning when Kelly Bennett joins us from the SuperTalk Mississippi News team. How about another win on the economic development front in Mississippi? On the heels of Amazon's $10 billion investment in central Mississippi about a year ago, Amazon is bringing another large-scale investment to the state. Announced by MDA yesterday, the retail giant will locate its inbound cross-dock operations in Marshall County. That's a project that is expected to create in the neighborhood of another 1,000 jobs in North Mississippi. The 930,000 square foot facility will be located in Chickasaw Trails Industrial Park, will receive and consolidate products from Amazon vendors, and then those products will be shipped to the surrounding fulfillment centers within the Amazon network. Governor Tate Reeves said Amazon's global presence is undeniable, and the company's continued investment in Mississippi speaks volumes about our ability to quickly and effectively meet the needs of its massive consumer base. I know this project will reap benefits for Marshall County, its residents in the surrounding region, well into the future, though Amazon itself and other industry leaders, through Amazon itself and other industry leaders that are taking note of our incredible economic momentum. Fantastic. Amazon did not provide an estimated monetary value for the project that is expected to come on board and begin operations in 2028. City of Madison has announced plans to break ground on a transformative arts and entertainment district aimed at elevating the quality of life for area residents. This entertainment district will be located off Galleria Parkway near Interstate 55, called The Gallery, privately funded product, mixed-use destination that blends entertainment, dining, retail, and office space. It's going to be highlighted by Spinners, a 120,000 square foot family entertainment center, bowling, skating, games, and more. Spinners already has a location in Florence.
I passed it the other day. It's beautiful, man. Let me tell you. That's going to be something else.
As part of this, the gallery development, Royal Street will feature French-inspired walkable architecture lined with local restaurants, boutique retail, and upstairs office space. It has a very New Orleans look to it. Very cool. Stock futures and the dollar rallied yesterday after President Trump said that he is not planning to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He also admitted that the 145% tariffs on China are very high and went on to say, quote, "It won't be that high. It will come down substantially." Shares rebounded on all of the major indexes, climbing 2.5% or more, and big tech stocks regained some of the ground that they lost on Monday. Traders were cheered by optimism from the White House on tariff negotiations. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said in an investor summit that he expects the trade war with China to de-escalate, and he believes that a trade deal can be reached. The Dow Jones jumped over 1,000 points, 2.7%. The NASDAQ rose 2.7%. S&P 500 was up 2.5% yesterday. So that's good news. And hey, kind of a public service announcement here for you. There is an event this Saturday that is happening at Ole Miss. It is for the Ole Miss Fellowship of Christian Athletes chapter. 8 o'clock this Saturday, April 26th, Breakfast with Champions. The featured speaker is David Pollock, three-time All-American and former NFL linebacker and current college football analyst. David Pollock, a former Georgia Bulldog. The special guest speaker is Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. You can register online. If you want more information, go to olemissfca.org. Let's talk about that Governor's Cup game. Some ball game last night. Ole Miss and Mississippi State in Pearl. We'll do that next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
This afternoon, Sports Talk Mississippi will be at Northwest Mississippi Community College in Senatobia. They will be there for the Celebration of Champions, honoring an incredible year of success. Successes in volleyball, football, cheer, dance, and women's soccer, national and conference titles across the board. That is this afternoon, Sports Talk Mississippi at Northwest Community College. And coming up on Friday, Sports Talk will be in Oxford for the start of the annual Double Decker Arts Festival, one of the biggest events in North Mississippi. You don't want to miss it. Mississippi State jumped out to a 1-0 lead with a run in the top of the first inning. They added two more in the top of the third after about an hour-long rain delay. So it was 3-0 Bulldogs going into the bottom of the fourth inning when Ole Miss got on the board. Rebels got 2 runs in the bottom of the fourth to make it a 1-run ball game, so 3-2. Rebels got the offense rolling a little bit more in the bottom of the fifth inning with 3 runs to take a 5-3 lead in the game. That lead would not last long as Mississippi State faced 3 different Ole Miss pitchers in the top of the sixth inning. And it was a hit parade for the Bulldogs. 4 runs coming across put Mississippi State in good shape, up 7-5 in the ball game. And with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, Ole Miss able to tie it up on a 2-run home run from Austin Fawley, who has been on an absolute tear for the Rebels. He was the DH in last night's ball game. It was his only hit of the game, but boy, it was a big one. Drove in 2 runs, tied the game in the bottom of the 9th. Extra innings, Mississippi State unable to score in the top of the 10th inning. Ole Miss got a man on second base in the bottom of the 10th. I guess it was Braden Randall. Reached base, got to second on a wild pitch, got to third on a wild pitch. Ole Miss did not bunt him to third base when they had, who was it? It was Mitchell Sanford at the plate. He struck out, and then Luke Hill popped out, and you're going, ooh, how long are they going to play this game? And Will Furness came to the plate, and with a couple of strikes on him, drove one the opposite way out into left field over the shortstop's head, scoring Braden Randall, and Ole Miss gets the win in the Governor's Cup. Final score, 8-7, a walk-off victory in the bottom of the 10th inning. Since this game became the Governor's Cup, Mississippi State has won 11. Last night was the 6th victory for Ole Miss. Of course, it was the Mayor's Trophy game before it was the Governor's Cup.
Yeah, a little closer on that battle, but as it moved to the Governors, it's
That's right.
Been state-dominated there.
That is correct.
Furness was the hero not only at the end of the game, but as Ole Miss seemed to be kind of falling asleep a bit, not allowing themselves to do much of anything, swinging for the fences. Furness hits a beautiful 2-run bomb. Wasn't it a 2-run bomb?
Yep.
To left, to kind of get the Rebs back going again. And a beautiful hit, too, because he waited, drove the ball the other way. Something he's been really working on all year, and you can see it paying off for him. And you love to see that for guys.
So a pair of 2-run home runs last night for Ole Miss. Will Furness had the first one. Austin Fawley had the big one that tied the game at 7. And then the game-winning RBI single for Will Furness. He had a 2-hit night. So did Isaac Humphrey for Ole Miss. Ryan Moorman, who had struggled as of late, was 3 for 4 last night, drove in a run. Mississippi State, Garrick Fry was 2 for 5, batting in the leadoff spot. The only other hitter for the Bulldogs that had multiple hits was Ross Highfill, batting in the 9-hole. He went 2 for 4 in the game as well. A lot of pitchers used. Noah Sullivan, the starter for Mississippi State, went 3 1/3. Then they went to Jacob Pruitt. Ryan McPherson was really good for the Bulldogs.
Lit it up.
3 1/3, 6 strikeouts, did not walk a batter. Luke Dotson took the loss for Mississippi State, gave up a couple of runs in an inning and a third. Cade Townsend was the starter for Ole Miss. Then the Rebels went to Braden Jones, then Walker Hooks, then Landon Waters, then Alex Canny, then Taylor Rabe, then Gunnar Dennis, and then they turned it over to Hudson Calhoun, who worked the final 3 innings of the game, 7 strikeouts, no walks. It was, without question, the best performance of Hudson Calhoun's career, and it was good. Ole Miss needed all of that last night.
Yeah, he looked great.
They got the win.
Dominant fastball last night. He was putting it right where he wanted. He had a little bend on his breaking ball, too, and they just, when you came in that position, 3 innings to go, and you've run through, 7 guys at that point, Hudson Calhoun was kind of the unsung hero, the way I see that, because somebody had to stop it, and he came in and did it. Did a great job.
Yeah. When Braden Jones came into the game for Ole Miss in the 3rd inning, and he has had his struggles as of late, ERA really high, opponents are hitting him at a high level, but in that 3rd inning where Mississippi State got a couple of runs, it felt like it could have been more. They got a single, a double, a single, there was a wild pitch, a ground out, and then a couple of strikeouts from Braden Jones to get out of that 3rd inning. And then after Ole Miss took the lead, Mississippi State, once again, they just got the offense going. 4 runs on 5 hits. They went single, wild pitch, walk, pitching change, fly out, single, ground out, single, and then finally a ground out to get out of the inning and put 4 on the board. So it was It was impressive.
Yeah, well, a guy like Braden, you got to throw strikes. And listening to Seth Smith last night, and you call a lot of baseball. That's the key to everything in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Throw strikes. If it's taking you 8 pitches to get an out, there's something wrong. Braden was around 5 pitches last night, and that's one of the stats that you don't see much that I put a lot of stock in with pitchers is how many pitches do you have to throw to get an out? And that as you get late in the season, you want to see guys kind of get into that zone, and Braden's been all over the place. Last night, 21 pitches, 4 outs, 3 strikeouts. So, right at 5 pitches, an out. That's excellent, yeah. Pretty
good. Jeremy in Columbia says it was the umpire's fault. Said it was clear to me the umpire was ready to go home. The called third strike was up and in the top 10th. It was not called a third strike on Furness. Gave him that extra pitch, which he hit into left field for the win.
Robot umps. Let's roll. I'm in. I hate the griping over balls and strikes. That's my least favorite thing about baseball.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I wish it was predictable. Just throw it in the zone. My brother-in-law have this conversation all the time, and he pitched in the majors for a while. I was like, look, I just want to know what a strike is. I can throw that.
Somebody said the park may have been half full. Yeah, not one of the better crowds that we've seen for the Governor's Cup in that ball game last night. I think there were a number of factors there. One, Mississippi State has been struggling, and Bulldog fans have showed up bigly for that game for a lot of years. So there's that. There was the weather situation where you had an hour-long rain delay. Turned into a late-night ball game that didn't end until, closing in on 11 o'clock. And it's gotten doggone expensive.
Yeah.
And look, it cost what it costs to go to live events. I understand that. That's not new news. I had a buddy of mine said he bought a ticket at the ball game, general admission ticket, and after they popped taxes and fees on it, $54 for a single general admission ticket for that game last night.
The cheapest chairback was right at $70, and so we were looking at going, but it was with the weather and everything, we were kind of like, nah, my dad's 78. He goes, no, let's come over and hook up the ESPN Plus for me. Let's
there you go.
Yes, sir, I got you.
There you go. That's a big number, though, for a general admission ticket in baseball.
Yeah.
I had to buy a GA ticket for a friend that was with one of my kids for a home game for Ole Miss earlier this year. And I think it was $20. That was for an SEC game.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole lot more than the $5 that it used to be. But, yes, it is reasonable. Southern Miss and Tulane were supposed to play in Hattiesburg yesterday. They canceled that yesterday afternoon, though, with the threat of inclement weather that included a bunch of lightning that was expected in the Hattiesburg area last night. It's kind of a wild night last night in SEC baseball. Texas A&M continues their hot streak. They beat Sam Houston 13-3. Tennessee beat Lipscomb 11-1 in 7 innings. That's a team they lost to in midweek action a year ago. Florida beat Georgia Southern 12-1. South Carolina in extra innings, 3-2 over North Florida. How about this one? Texas scored 4 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, and 4 in the 9th to come from behind and win 14-11 in San Marcos over Texas State. Middle Tennessee beat Vanderbilt 5-3. Vandy, the Ole Miss opponent this weekend. Alabama, an 11-7 winner over Samford. You had Oral Roberts 5-3 over number 14 Oklahoma. Arkansas beat Little Rock 10-zip, did not suffer the same fate that Ole Miss did a week ago. Missouri State 11-0 over Missouri. The Missouri Tigers are 13-27 for the year, still winless in the SEC at 0-18. How about a 1-0 victory for Auburn over Georgia Tech? Clemson 3-0 over Georgia. Northwestern State in Baton Rouge, a 13-3 run rule victory over LSU. Got a lottery update for you coming up next.
From
the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update. Lance, by the way, there was a question for you here on the C Spire text line. Hey, Lance, which of the lottery games in Mississippi are the best to play?
The ones
Your
that
opinion,
win,
my friend.
The ones that win. Well, I don't know. As they change games up, it seems to have a great deal. The presidential ones were crushing it for a while. And as we've moved into some of the new games, I've seen the colossal cash winners have popped up a great deal lately, too. So, my opinion, you got to play to win, right? But, you get some big stuff out there. The $2 10 times the money's been paying, too. So, I think all of them are great games. It just depends on what you want to allocate as far as capital.
Numbers for you. Lotto America. No jackpot winner in the most recent drawing tonight. $31.5 million. That's the estimated jackpot with an estimated cash value of $14,440,000. Monday was the most recent drawing. The numbers were 2, 4, 13, 21, 44. The Starball 8, the All-Star bonus multiplier was 3. You got a Powerball jackpot tonight with an estimated value of $151 million. If you're taking the cash, you're walking away with just over $69 million. Nice. Morning numbers from, the numbers from Monday on the Powerball drawing that did not yield a jackpot winner: 4, 33, 45, 46, 51. Powerball was 25, and the Power Play multiplier was 3. You know what I'd be interested to know?
What's that?
From all the Powerball drawings, what has been the most frequent Powerball number? For the
like the actual
Powerball.
Right. That's a good question.
I feel like 12 pops up a lot.
I wouldn't know on that. I haven't really done the digging on that one, but good question. Not sure. But, yeah, you got to match up a lot of stuff for those. That's why I love the Mississippi Match 5. It pays. If you want to know what my opinion, I'd be playing Match 5. It turns over so quickly. It gets to about a certain amount, and somebody's about to win that thing. Well, we got.
I feel like we've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, it just happens. It'll go 2-3 times in a row, and then it'll reset a few times and then get rolling. But double play numbers from Monday, April 21st: 18, 23, 34, 35, 67. Powerball of 13. You have no jackpot winner yet on the Mega Millions. It's up to $60 million for the drawing that'll happen on Friday. Estimated cash value, that's about $26 million. And the numbers from the Tuesday drawing: 25, 39, 49, 52, and 65 with a mega ball of 22.
I was incorrect in my assumption that 12 was the most drawn Powerball. Powerball history reveals some numbers seem to pop up more often than others. The top 10 Powerball numbers. 96 times the Powerball has been 61.
Really? Okay.
21, 91 times. 63, 91 times.
I've never seen that, though. It's a lot of
This is a story from March of 2024, so it's changed a little bit, but
I haven't seen those. I haven't seen numbers that high in a while. So yeah, that is kind of interesting.
Don't forget the second winner of the NASCAR Powerball playoff will be drawn Thursday, April 24th. $12,000 total, $8,500 cash prize, $3,500 early bird bonus. You've got until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to enter. Sign up to be a Mississippi Lottery Insider at mslottery.com, and you will automatically receive the entry form. This is all racing toward a $1 million grand prize in the NASCAR Powerball playoff. Let's give you some winners. A Guntown man won $1,000 on a ticket from Sun Express in Tupelo. Louisville woman, $1,200 on a ticket from Woody's in Noxapater. Vicksburg player, $1,350 on a ticket from Quick Mart in Vicksburg. A Jackson woman, $2,500 on a ticket from Fuel Time in Jackson. A Meridian woman won $3,303 on a ticket from Citgo in Meridian. How about $5,903 from 2 tickets at Freshley's Market in Aberdeen?
I'm going to let you handle it because I'm lost.
All right. I just jumped ahead there.
Yeah, you got me.
Cash Pop winners. Gulfport man won $4,500 on 3 tickets from TCB Stop and Go in Gulfport. We got the $20 scratch off for the 200X Cash Blitz. A Chula man won $2,000 on a ticket from Wade Station in Moss Point. An Okolona man, $2,000 on a ticket from Sprint Mart in Tupelo. A Brookhaven woman, $2,000 on a ticket from Be Quick in Brookhaven. Or Brookhaven.
Brookhaven.
And then finally, a $20 Colossal Cash scratch-off. A Quitman woman won $50,000 on a ticket from Minute Mart in Quitman.
That was one of the ones I was referring to, that $20 Colossal Cash. It seems to pay.
There you go. I just discovered why you were having trouble following along.
Yeah, I was lost, man. I promise. I was in the woods there.
It's all right.
We're good.
7 o'clock hour coming up. We'll start things off with Peter Costa, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, market analyst with CNBC, all-around good dude as well. That's to start the 7 o'clock hour. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
In edition number 727 of Richard not being able to give you the pop culture reference. No, Lance, I cannot tell you off the top of my head what movie that comes from.
Wall Street.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Yes, sir.
It makes sense. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call 601-206-7966 or go online to mwgemployerservices.com. My good friend Peter Costa joins us this morning. First guest on this Wednesday morning, middle of the week on Mornings with Richard Cross. Peter is a former governor of the New York Stock Exchange and a market analyst with CNBC, and he is semi-retired at this point as well. Peter, I would like to start off with a metaphor, or as some people say, a metaphor this morning, and see if you were on board with this. The stock market is a bunch of teenage girls. It reacts to every single rumor in a drama-filled, oh, what are we going to do? Over and over and over. Are you on board with that?
That is, you know what, Richard? I never heard that metaphor before, or metaphor. But I have to say that that's exactly the way to describe the market right now is, I mean, it's like going to a Taylor Swift concert. You know, the opening act was, January to February, and then February 15th, Taylor got on stage, and then all hell broke loose. So, yeah, I mean, it's when you're in a market like this, it's very tough having conversations with people because people are, thinking of a knee-jerk reaction. Should I get out or should I get in? Did I miss something? But the reality is, if you're an investor, generally you're a more longer-term investor, and you have to just ride out the waves like this, the periods where, what we're in right now. And, I've been through dozens of them, and I don't think there's going to be, it's never going to change.
Yeah.
The markets react. Sometimes they react stupidly, and, you just have to be prepared.
So the advice that long-term investors have always given is don't try to time the market. You can't do it. It can't be done. You can make smart decisions in terms of getting in or buying when the market's down or things like that. But if you try to time the market, you're not going to win long term. So for the people that are living and dying, looking at their retirement account statements in this period of volatility, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say, number one, go watch General Hospital at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Channel ABC, because really, if you think about it, there'll be days where you'll think you're, the richest man on earth, and then sometimes you're going to think you're the poorest person on earth when you're looking at your portfolio. But the reality is, you're not taking all of that money. No, very, very few investors are taking all of their money out of their account right now. So, you're looking at the long term. You have to remember that over the course of your investment experience, you've made money. So you may have put $1 million in your account over your lifetime, and now you have $3.5 million. So if your portfolio goes down 5% because of the volatility, you're still up a tremendous amount of money. I mean, granted, inflation has taken some part of that out, but generally at a 7.5% to 10% clip, everyone is making money, so you're up. Why would you fret about, being down 5% for the last 6 weeks or whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
You're up long term. Your bigger picture is you're still on the plus side. So to me, that's the important thing, is knowing that, my investments over time have been about X dollars, but because of the returns and the way the markets react and have reacted over the last 2 or 3 decades, I'm up significantly, and a 5% pullback, it's not the best thing in the world for you, because obviously it's a mental thing. But the reality is, when you look at on paper what you're worth a lot more than you were when you started. Yeah. So to me, it's just keeping the bigger picture in focus. And all right, you can talk about the market as everyone is talking about it, but the reality is, every investor, if they started at some point in the last 20 years, they're all up, unless you're just like, I don't even know what you'd be invested in if you were down, but you're up pretty much. Everyone is. So, just keep that in mind. You're still on the plus side of the ledger.
I've got a buddy who was he's a banker, and he was having a conversation with his mom, and his mom was like, "Oh, I'm really worried about the market. It's down a good bit the last few days." And he said, "Mom, what do you need the money for right now?"
Yeah.
She said, I don't need the money. She's like, I'm fine on a week to week, month to month basis. I'm just he goes, "Well, are you ready to sell all your stocks? Are you ready to sell out of everything?" She goes, "No, of course not." He goes, "Then you didn't lose anything. Quit worrying about it."
It's just paper. I mean, right now it's just paper. And I know that's an easy thing for people to say, and I know it's a lot harder for people to do, is remember that you're not taking all that money at this point. You might take some, you want to buy a boat, or maybe you want to buy a vacation house or something like that. But if you're going to buy a vacation house and you're down 5%, you're up somewhere, because you're not, you have the money to buy that vacation house. All right. So it's a little bit less. All right. It's not the greatest thing, but the reality is everyone is going to be okay. And then one other thing, Richard, and I brought this up on a number of different shows, is that when you have a sell-off in the market the way we've had over the last, 3 weeks, let's say, just give it that space, investors have raised cash. You sell at the high of the market. That's a profit. That's money. That's cash. That's sitting on the sidelines. So whenever we have a sell-off like this, generally there's a lot of cash that moves out of stocks and out of bonds as well, and moves into maybe a money market for a short period of time. The reality is, there's trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines waiting for the opportunity to start reinvesting that money. So, you can have a sell-off, you can have these multiple sell-offs, unless there is a significant financial event or a depression, that develops, that money goes back into the market at some point. So there are price points where the market will start stabilizing, and I think we're at it. I think we've already hit it. So the money's moving back into equities and moving back into bonds. So I think you just got to ride this stuff out, because money it's not disappearing. It's just going to another place.
I thought there was an interesting thing, and we're not going to focus on individual stocks very often, but Tesla is kind of a different animal with the like the bright lights that just flash around Elon Musk whenever he opens his mouth. So they reported a 20% drop in auto revenue first quarter, and that was reported yesterday. And yet Elon Musk also said that in May he's going to slide back into a bigger role with Tesla. He's going to step at least partly away from Doge, and shares were up 7.5% overnight. It's kind of hard to make those two things make sense together. Missed earnings down, but the head guy's coming back and the stock goes up.
Well, you know what it is with Elon Musk? He's in a different space as far as business leaders. I mean, there's a contingent of investors that just live and die by every word that he says, and the guy is brilliant. Let's not, I mean, whatever anybody thinks about what he's doing with Doge, what I think is great. The guy is brilliant. I mean, he's launched rocket ships. He's building. He's the thinker that we haven't had in this country in a long time. And I think a lot of people invest based on his track record, number one. If you look at Tesla and you invested when they first came out, you'd be doing very, very well. But it's a certain group of investors that live and die on his word. And I think that's what you see. And a lot of times, there are computer models that trade stocks, all over the place. And they generally guide stocks, whatever. So if there's positive commentary about Elon Musk anywhere in the world, generally computer models will go and buy the stock because they're anticipating a run on the upside. Well, they happen to be the ones that are making the stock run up. So, there's those two things. There's that cult of Elon Musk, which is significant.
We'll be right back. We got more with Peter Costa on the other side of this, talking stocks and the market.
From the Bennett Mississippi.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Wednesday morning, thanks for being with us. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you being on board, and we invite you to join the conversation. You can do that on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit them online at cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. Peter Costa is my guest. It's also my friend. Former market analyst with CNBC, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. He is joining us this morning. I want to play something for you in a second. It has to do with conversation about the recession, or a recession, from a Fortune 100 CEO. But before that, we got a message. Somebody was just talking about their investment strategy, and it was talking about mutual funds and kind of the safety there, and he'll ride a single stock up and down, and then when it's up, he'll roll that money into a mutual fund. There's a lot of talk these days about ETFs, I think more than maybe there used to be, electronically traded funds. What's the difference between a mutual fund, which has always been considered to be kind of a safe long-term investment instrument, and an electronically traded fund, or an ETF?
Well, with an ETF, you have the ability to get in and get out during the trading day, which mutual funds are, to get out, it's usually priced on the close. So what happens with an ETF is, if you're, an active trader, and I mean, trading ETFs to me is a little bit of I don't know. I mean, you could trade the triple Qs. You could trade a lot of different vehicles if you want market performance. But generally, an ETF will focus on a certain group of stocks or a certain fundamental approach to investing, like an inflation type fund, or and you can buy it and sell it generally during the trading day. I mean, the liquidity is not super great in some of these ETFs, but there are ETFs that can trade 25 and 30 million shares a day. So, but the idea is to get in and get out, periodically during the day. And what the ETF does is when there's a sale or when there's a purchase, the computer models that are attached to these ETFs buy the underlying securities or sell the underlying securities. So you can watch the movement in an ETF, and you can watch the portfolio that's inside of it react. They're almost, hand in hand. So it's a good way to cheaply invest in a group of stocks, where a mutual fund, I think, has a little bit higher expense ratio. Most ETFs, their expense ratio is very, very low. So that helps too. I mean, not that most of us really even are concerned about the expense ratio, but it is, a factor. One of the things, though, is that, as far as tax-wise, it becomes a complicated situation. And at the end of the year, if you traded an ETF all year long, there could be significant tax consequences. But for the most people, it's an easy way to get in and get out in a strategy that they like. Instead of buying, Dow Chemical, you buy an ETF that has Dow as one of its components, and you get the benefit of Dow and all the other components, doing well or not doing well. It all depends on your strategy. Me personally, I originally didn't like ETFs because I said, if you're going to do the research on a particular stock, buy the stock, But I understand why investors do use it, because, they can have an underlying stock that they really like, and that stock might be up 20% for the quarter, but the rest of the group is only up 5%. The ETF is only going to be up a certain, it's not going to be the 20%.
Sure.
It's going to be averaged somewhere in between. So,
and an ETF is generally supposed to be reflective of the S&P 500, right? So basically what the S&P 500 is doing, if you're buying into an ETF, it should generally track along those lines.
It all depends, though. Some ETFs are, there are ETFs that do the opposite. They're a short ETF where they react to the market. So yeah, I mean, it's a little more complicated and they're not as liquid, but there are ETFs that will do the opposite of what the market's doing. So if the market's going down, that ETF is short, it'll be going up. So there are certain, it all depends on which ETFs you're in. Most of them tend to try to be around what the S&P 500 is. They may not have all 500 stocks in there, but they might have a select group, the Magnificent Seven, for instance, and then maybe 10 other tech stocks. But generally, that's what they are. It's a cheaper way of investing, and it's liquid for the most part, and it's easy to go in and go out. And if you don't like the idea in the afternoon, you can sell it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an advantage.
All right, I want to play this from you. Mike Wirth, the CEO of Chevron, was on CNBC yesterday. You have said in the past that you think that a recession is a very real possibility. You've had people at Goldman and JP Morgan and other Wall Street firms that have said a recession is coming at some point. Some of those people are just labeled as doomsdayers, and they're going to say something negative. Some are saying, hey, these are smart guys, you should listen to them. You've also got the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, saying, no, we don't see the market conditions for a recession. This is what Mike Wirth said yesterday on CNBC.
You don't think we're headed into a recession in your plans at this point?
There's no signs that we see at this point that we're in or close to a recession. There are signs that growth may be slowing. And again, we have to always be prepared for that. But ours is a long cycle business. The capital we put to work in our business isn't there for just a few years. It's typically there for decades. So we really have to take a longer view and not get buffeted too much by short-term market movement.
All right, so is Mike Wirth saying no recession or not a recession that affects our particular business line?
Well, to me, he's more about Chevron, which he's right. I mean, any of the oil companies, they're their time frame is extraordinarily long as opposed to an Eli Lilly or General Motors. They look at things in 30, 50-year time horizons. So I think that that's what he's looking at, is that he's looking at for his company. They see pullbacks and they see slowdowns in the economy over decades, but it doesn't really impact Chevron, because what they do, and they find an oil field that takes 15 years to extract, or at least get the most benefit out of an oil field in 15, 20 years. So their time frame is a lot longer. I'm still in the recessionary camp. I don't see it being a deep one, but I do think that there's a probably better than 50 to 60% possibility of it this year. We could be in a recession and not even know it. And we've been in recessions before. We didn't know it until we got out of it. So that might be the case as well. It's not, we don't have, the problem that to look 6 months out in the economy and the market and everything, one of the main problems is we still have to deal with where are we going with tariffs. And I know that, my thing has always been, you want clarity, which is what the market has been striving for, and having, the issues with President Trump and Jerome Powell, that seems to be resolving itself. So the markets rallied after that. But my other concern is consistency. And that's something a lot of people don't talk about, is that you need consistent economic, it is consistent economic agenda, one that people can invest in and understand that, if they say they're going to have a 20% tariff, they have a 20% tariff. You know how to invest in it. You know what to do, where to go, what to do, how to set your portfolio, and how to set up your platform for investing for the next 6 months. But
that's not just for investors; that's for businesses and business owners as well.
I was going to get to that. Businesses have a very hard time for planning because they don't know what, as far as supply. I mean, we still, no matter what anybody says, we're still getting a lot of our supply chain from China, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Tariffs are going to increase the cost. I think they'll probably tone everything down to a certain level. And we won't see 134% tariffs on Chinese products. I think that's done. But the idea is that businesses are investing based on that number. And now, the president said he's going to walk that back a bit. It's the consistency. I think that's to me, that makes it a little scary to invest, because you don't actually know. I mean, you never really know what the future holds, but you kind of have a general idea of what the future looks like in whatever business you're in. This has muddied the waters considerably. So, I think that once you have the consistent message from the White House, consistent, reports, the earnings seem to be doing very well for the first quarter. I don't see that in the second quarter. I see the second quarter is going to be, right now it's cloudy as it is. I think it's probably going to be a rough go for the next probably 3 to 4 months as far as the economy. But if they have some sort of consistent approach, consistent, platform and how they're running everything and how they're going to do their tariffs, I think that'll help a lot. Even if it does cost more money for individuals, understanding that you're going to be, inflation might tick up a tick. And then, we've gone through it already. And
he says,
leveling
in the long run, maybe we'll be okay. Peter Costa, we are out of time. I thank you so much.
No problem.
We'll talk to you soon. Peter Costa, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. From the segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Great mama.
My thanks to my friend Peter Costa for joining us this morning, former governor of the New York Stock Exchange, and Has been a CNBC market analyst for years and years and years. He's semi-retired at this point. If you like what you heard from Peter, or you are intrigued by some of his takes, you might consider subscribing to his newsletter, which is free. Free. Who doesn't like something free, especially when it's got some good information? I will tell you this. Peter's newsletter, which comes out 3 or 4 times a week, is it's very conversational in the way that it is written. It is not some like numbers-driven, quant-heavy stuff. He occasionally will get into a little politics. There's some market stuff. It's just his analysis of kind of what's going on in the world and how it affects investing in markets and whatnot. petercosta.substack.com, or really, really easy. If you just open a browser, you can type in Costa's Corner, Peter Costa. Really simple Google search, and it will take you. It's the first result that pops up. Enter your email address, and you will be on his mailing list. There's some, there really is some good stuff there, and would encourage you to check that out if Peter was of interest to you.
I'd take him up on the free.
There you go.
If that's what I'd do.
But there you go. It's kind of common sense stuff too, and not that the political leanings necessarily matter. To some of you, they may really matter. Peter is a conservative, but he's kind of a middle-of-the-road conservative, a business-savvy conservative. And so it's kind of the, we all have some sort of intrinsic bias, like, because of how you were raised or where you live or where you go to church or whatever. We all have biases built into our opinions. And that's kind of where Peter's coming from. He's a New Yorker, has lived on Long Island for a really long time, was back and forth, worked in the city for, 30 years. And his life experience is really fascinating. So
one of the great stories, I got to visit with him for a second. I said, "Man, how was your Easter?" He goes, "Well, we went into Manhattan and we were having a little brunch." I said, "Did you spend more time trying to park than you did at brunch?" And he goes, "No, actually, I got lucky. We pulled right into a spot at the park where we were having our picnic, and he goes, people in Manhattan, they kind of exit on a holiday, so it was kind of like having the free run of the city." But what a great guy, man. You want to tap into that knowledge, I promise you.
Yep. It's good. Hey, this is from a couple of days ago, so if you've already heard this or you've already listened to it, my apologies if it is a repeat. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren, some of you know her as Pocahontas, was on a podcast.
Was it Between Two Ferns?
Say what?
Was it Between Two Ferns? Was that Galifianakis? It kind of looked like it.
That was not the one. But she was pressed by the podcast host on some of what she said about the health and the mental acuity of the former president, Joe Biden. Suffice it to say, she did not exactly knock it out of the ballpark with her answers. Take a listen to the senator.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. The thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough.
Senator Elizabeth Warren. Somebody sent us a message that said it was like her brain went into a vapor lock on that podcast as she was trying to answer those questions. It reminded me of this famous movie clip.
idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Great movie clip. See, every now and then there's a movie reference or a cultural reference.
There you go.
Every great once in a while.
Well, I was looking at that and going, man, I mean, she agreed to like a public broadcast TV and wasn't even prepared for this interviewer to ask her a straightforward question. I mean, it just shut her down. And it was interesting because you got to give the interviewer credit.
I said I had not seen decline.
I wish you could see the facial expressions. She kind of turns her head sideways, and there's like this smirk, and the podcast host like turns her head sideways, like, come on, you got to be kidding me.
And she's looking for somebody with a big hook to pull her off the stage.
Yes.
Or is there a
At
leak?
that point, she was a
coming?
turtle.
Goodness gracious,
like
man.
she just wanted to kind of retract into her shell.
Yeah.
I had this story yesterday morning, and we just ran out of time. This is wild. I mean wild. A New Mexico judge has resigned from the bench after an alleged Tren de Aragua gang member was arrested at his home. Not because the Tren de Aragua gang member was breaking into his home, rather because he was living there. Doña Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Cano's resignation letter is dated March 3rd, but a spokesman for the Administrative Office of the Courts told Fox News Digital it was not received by the Supreme Court and Third Judicial Court until March 31st. You see, back in January, Homeland Security Investigations Las Cruces began looking into Venezuelan native Christian Ortega Lopez, an illegal alien from Venezuela and a suspected member of a criminal gang who was residing with other illegal aliens and in possession of firearms. On the 28th of February, 2 search warrants were executed at a home investigators identified as owned by Judge Cano's wife, Nancy Cano. Ortega Lopez and his roommate were taken into custody, and agents seized 4 firearms from April Cano's residence, that is the daughter of Nancy and Joel. Ortega Lopez was found by investigators posing with weapons in social media posts, some of which he said were owned by April Cano, who allowed him to hold and sometimes shoot various firearms. Ortega Lopez admitted to illegally entering the United States from Mexico in December of 2023. Told investigators he was living in an El Paso apartment with 5 others when he met Nancy Cano to install a glass door for her. He continued to do a few jobs for the judge's wife. And after being evicted from his apartment in April of 2024, that's last year, Nancy Cano offered her casita in the back of the residence she shared with her husband, Joel Cano. A district court judge in New Mexico housing a Venezuelan illegal that was a member of Tren de Aragua. Friends, you can't make that up. Can't do it.
Truth is stranger than fiction. Way more interesting. But yet, that sounds like it should be illegal, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah. And you heard the clip from Elizabeth Warren a second ago, and you're like, how does she keep getting elected?
Look at the people voting for her, I guess.
Well, there's that. But she's not the only one that makes you scratch your head when you hear, how did they get elected? You heard of the latest from Jasmine Crockett?
According to them, the trans kids that want to play the sports, Lord have mercy, that is the biggest issue that we had. Since when? Since when? Find the little trans child that is ruining your life. Like, I mean, I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Jasmine Crockett makes Corinne Brown sound like a Rhodes Scholar. You don't know who Corinne Brown is? Google Go Gata, Gata. Mornings with Richard Cross. We'll be back.
From the better.
Good morning.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the go. Backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. You've killed enough time. Let's start discussing the street dance in celebration of Jackson mayoral race results. Great day for Jackson, we think / hope. You're going to have to forgive me. This inquiring mind needs to know. Was that a literal street dance celebration or figurative?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to know if at 10 o'clock last night in parts of Jackson there was a literal street dance celebrating John Horn's demolition in the runoff.
There were 14,000 people roughly that voted for him, I think, that probably were extremely excited.
Yeah. No. It was up over 17,000.
17,000. Yeah, I was thinking
votes.
of the difference there, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It was a good turnout for John Horn. I mean, he really did a great job.
And tip of the cap to the folks in Jackson. Not that the turnout numbers were great, but they were better than expected. If you heard us talk with JT Mitchell yesterday, he was expecting an exceptionally low turnout. I asked him the question. I said, hey, is 10,000 votes enough to win this? And he said he didn't think there was any question. You ended up with 3 times that amount. So we salute you, those of you who did go to vote. Let your voice be heard. Look, if you win an election 52-48, if you have a 4-point win, that was a comfortable victory. I mean, good grief. Donald Trump won like 51-49 with 17 million total votes, and we've been talking about landslide, mandate, et cetera, et cetera. So a 52-48 win is comfortable. A 58-42 win is a landslide. Like, it was never close. It was dominant from the first box that reported until all the votes were counted. Good grief, never a doubt. And if 58-42 is a landslide, I don't even know what the classification is for 75-25.
Yeah, somebody needs to
with
the
with
retirement.
An incumbent. And it's not 75-25 for the incumbent. I mean, we're talking Ronald Reagan 1984 numbers when he carried 49 of 50 states.
Yeah, your opponent's retiring after that one, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Unless there's some other job somewhere else in the state that you want to take. That's a pretty good mandate, though, and I'm with you. I don't even know what you consider that as far as how bad of a beating that is in an election. You don't see that very often. I remember when Phil Bryant won his first state auditor campaign that I worked with him on, and it was one of those like 80 to, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
You don't see that often, though. This doesn't happen.
The electoral map in 1984 for Ronald Reagan was pretty red. Only Tim Walz' Minnesota didn't vote for him. What was that? Minnesota voted for Mondale. Is that right? Is that right? Is it Mondale?
I think that was right. 80. Yeah, 80 would have been Mondale, right?
No, 84. 84.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Walter Mondale, the Democrat from Minnesota. And again, that was a 59-41 win for Ronald Reagan. Carried 525 electoral votes and 49 states. Mondale got Minnesota and D.C., and that's it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's it. Bill Owens. Donald in Oxford says Dukakis. No, that was 88 with Bush. Bill Owens, executive producer of television's most popular and influential news magazine since 2019, said in a note to staff that it has become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I've always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience. He went on to say, the show is too important to the country. It has to continue, just not with me as the executive producer. Bill Owens abruptly resigned his position as executive producer of 60 Minutes. Tick, 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 tick. This is all going with the backdrop of a $20 billion lawsuit filed against the show by Donald Trump. And apparently, because of a merger or a potential merger, an effort behind the scenes for CBS to settle that lawsuit. Interesting stuff. We're back with you. It's Richard Cross. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know. No matter how I try, I just can't make her cry.
Just after 8 o'clock with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. We, Sunday night, Lance, we were trying to figure out what we're going to do for dinner. And the first Mexican restaurant that we tried was closed. And so we went to a second one, and it was fantastic, as always. And we were leaving and saw some friends out, and this little girl came up to me that was one of my daughter's age. And she goes, I listen to you every morning on the way to school.
Isn't that cool? And
I was like, I'm so sorry. I know this is not what you want to be listening to on the way to school. She's like, well, my daddy listens to it. So
she's learning.
I got a kick out of that. So whether you are on the way to school this morning with dad, or you are taking kids to school, or you're headed to the office, to the work site, the job site, whatever it is that you're doing, I appreciate you choosing to hang out with us for a little while to start your day. You can join the conversation on the C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. So much to get to, not enough time. Kelly Bennett is going to join us at 8:37 this morning. We'll get some statewide election results and a bit of a recap from yesterday's municipal elections. We've obviously talked about Jackson and State Senator John Horn with his decisive victory over Mayor Lumumba. and general election coming up on June 3rd. So, Lance, I have my plan here.
Yeah.
But then I have these three clips that I'm looking at also. Let's start here. The announcement yesterday from the Food and Drug Administration about the elimination of petroleum-based food dyes. You remember a few months back there was I guess it was an executive order that eliminated one of the red food dyes. Yesterday, Marty McCary, Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, announced the full phase-out of petroleum-based food dyes by the end of next year. He said there's no one ingredient that accounts for the child chronic disease epidemic, and let's be honest. Taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that will instantly make America's children healthy. But it is one important step. This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker. We need fresh, new approaches. So here's the roadmap. He gave you 3 bullet points. Number 1, establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based food dyes to natural alternatives. So there's a recognition there that it's going to take a little time for the food industry to make these changes. So they will say, this is the standard, this is the timeline. Number 2, initiating a process to revoke authorization of synthetic food colorings, including those not in production, namely citrus red number 2 and orange B. That's going to happen within the coming weeks. And number 3, and this is probably the most significant of the 3 steps, taking steps to eliminate the remaining 6 synthetic dyes from the U.S. food supply. Specifically, red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2, and green dye number 3 by the end of next year. There you go. Now, I can only speak to personal experience. And it's not a scenario where I have a child that has cancer or diabetes or autism or anything else, and we're like, oh, we think it's because of food dye. But I can tell you this personal experience. One of our 3 children, not going to out the kiddo, is banned, forbidden from eating anything with red food dye in it. No red slushies, no red ice cream, no red candy, because it visibly and significantly changed his behavior. And Lance, it took us a long time to figure it out, but if the child of ours that we're talking about here ingested red food dye, just say it was a red slush, you could set a timer, and within 20 minutes, behavior deteriorated.
Wow.
Became kind of wild, kind of loud, kind of moody, a little grumpy, bouncing off the walls. It wasn't always the same behavioral trait, but it was a chill kid that 20 minutes later went crazy.
Now, I can say this. When I was a kid, there was always the rumors that you never ate red candy because of the dye that was in it was toxic. And every time you'd see the red M&M or whatever, you'd throw it away. I never ate them. So it's interesting that we're kind of circling back to that because, I mean, in the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, I don't remember ever eating red candy, anything red. And we knew that, I mean, as a child, you knew red dye was bad for you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's okay, you know. Everything's prettier red, I guess. I'm not sure.
And I don't know the science behind it.
I don't either.
And I know, like, our experience is very anecdotal, right? Our experience may not be your experience. Our experience was not the same with all three of our kids. It was just with one. But that one child in our household who, from a behavior standpoint, we just never had any issues with, of any kind. Behavior became markedly worse. Put a clock on it 20 minutes after ingesting red food.
Well, think of this. I mean, red dye
over and over. It happened every time.
You got several red dyes. I mean, number 40 came out
That's
like
right.
71. 69, those when red dye number 3, the one they're wanting to get rid of, known as erythrocene, was first approved for use in drugs and food in 69 by the FDA, but later in 1990 banned in cosmetics because it suggested it would cause cancer in animals, which obviously, you know, that's where they do their testing. So, but it's okay to eat, bud. Well, let's pour it all in our food and everything. So, but yeah, by 90, you had this is bad for you. And we're still consuming it in 2025.
Not for much longer, though.
Yeah.
Somebody said on the C Spire text line, well, as long as we keep Mambo number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. There you go. Got a message from a friend. Just drove by a big billboard with a red slushie on it when you guys were talking about it. He said, I've never even noticed it until you were talking about red food dye right there.
Red's pretty.
Yeah, we're not going to be consuming that particular slush in our household. There you go. C Spire text line open, 601-879-4395. Good to have you along for the ride this morning. A novel concept coming from the United States Department of Education. The Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, spoke yesterday to the American people, and this is what she said.
In case you missed it, the Department of Education announced that on May 5th, we will restart collections of student loans in default. The federal student loan portfolio stands at nearly $1.7 trillion, and only 4 in 10 student borrowers are in repayment. Unlike the previous administration, who made false promises and pushed an illegal student loan bailout, we will not force American taxpayers to take on the debts that are not theirs. There's no such thing as forgiveness, just shifting the payment burden from one party to another. Borrowers should pay back the debts they take on. Please visit studentaid.gov for more information on student loan repayment options.
That was Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, yesterday. It's an incredibly novel concept. You borrow money for your education, and you are expected to repay that money. Collections of those student loans in default will begin on Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May. More MRC with you when we come back. Thanks for listening on this Wednesday morning.
From the Venable Glass.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Got 3 women's, yellow, brown, and black. I got 3 women's, yellow, brown, and black. I'll take the governor of Georgia to judge one of these women I like.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining the conversation. Kelly Bennett will be along in the next segment. We'll talk about election results from municipal elections across the state of Mississippi. I want to tease something for you that we are going to get to tomorrow. We talked during the legislative session this year a pretty fair amount about PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. And there are certainly arguments against PBMs. There is a significant and seemingly logical argument for reform within the middleman sector of the drug industry. And now it appears we have a test case of success on what it looks like when a state Medicaid department says no to PBMs as they exist today. Ohio providing a roadmap perhaps for other states to eliminate the imbalance that exists in the reimbursement of drug costs for independent pharmacies, a reduction in cost for consumers, and an overall savings for the state. I promise you, we will get to that story tomorrow. It's a really, really fascinating case study. And if it worked in Ohio, can it work in Mississippi? Can it work in other states? Maybe so. Perhaps you saw yesterday that Harvard is suing the Trump administration. A federal lawsuit in the escalating battle with Trump over funding. Filed a federal lawsuit on Monday arguing that the Trump administration has violated the university's constitutional rights by freezing billions of dollars in federal funding and imperiling its academic independence. By the way, there is a separate conversation about Harvard and the way it's managing and leveraging its financial endowment, its involvement in equities, the amount of money that it is making while carrying a tax-exempt 501c3 status. The suit sets up a legal showdown between what the Wall Street Journal calls America's most prominent university and the United States president, who has been on an escalating campaign to reorder elite higher education. I don't know entirely, I think I do, I don't know entirely what the intent of that sentence is where it says to reorder elite education, higher education. I wonder if they mean when they say to reorder elite higher education, they mean snuff out anti-Semitism and education blocking protests that are happening on college campuses. I don't think that's what they mean with the sentence. Just thinking out loud. Alan Garber is the relatively new president of Harvard University. He said in a community message, the consequences of the government's overreach will be severe and long-lasting. Harvard argues in the suit that the government has cut off funds as part of its pressure campaign, quote unquote, to force the university to submit to the government's control over its academic programs. I think we probably all agree that the federal government should not be controlling the academic programs at private universities. We might wish sometimes that they could, but I think deep down, whether you're conservative or liberal, you believe that academic freedom should exist in university settings. Hold on, let me back up. Let me not say that we all agree with that. That's just my opinion. That does not mean that I think our university should be indoctrinating our students with one political ideology or another. College campuses, at their best, are an open forum for discussion, for the free exchange of ideas, for allowing minds to be stretched and to grow and to see different points of view than the ones that they are already accustomed to or that they believe in, to question things, to learn. They should not be an ideological breeding ground for one political side of the spectrum or the other. Again, that's my opinion. But in this Harvard story, is the lawsuit against the Trump administration actually the biggest thing that's happening right now? Or does Harvard have a bigger problem? Now, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to go to the Associated Press or to the Wall Street Journal or to the New York Times or the Boston Globe and find this story. It's not going to be the lead story like Harvard suing Trump. Melissa Chin writes on X, to add to Harvard's ongoing woes, we have uncovered a shocking new detail. Harvard University may have violated United States sanctions by hosting and providing training sessions for a Chinese paramilitary organization called XPCC. XPCC is a state-run economic and paramilitary organization under the direct control of the Chinese central government. The XPCC implements the CPC's policies in Xinjiang. These policies include the incarceration and forced labor of several ethnic groups. In 2020, the United States government sanctioned the XPCC and several of its leading officials due to their links to human rights abuses. The XPCC is also sanctioned under the Global Magnitsky Act, which restricts the ability of U.S. persons to engage with the XPCC. Harvard admits that there have been training exercises, classes in which the XPCC was a beneficiary. I don't think you're going to read about this story in the mainstream media. So, what exactly is the XPCC? Kind of explained it a second ago. By the way, Harvard has received over $1.1 billion in foreign funding since 2012, significant amount of that from China. $60 billion in foreign gifts and contracts to U.S. colleges and universities over the last decade or so. $20 billion of which has gone to 10 schools, Harvard leading the way with $3.2 billion received in foreign money. XPCC is a state-run paramilitary corporate conglomerate that operates in the Xinjiang Autonomous Region of the People's Republic of China. As the regional government, paramilitary organization, and state-run corporate enterprise, the XPCC runs prisons, a media empire, the educational system, and agricultural products. The United States State Department has accused China of genocide against the Uyghurs region and imposed sanctions on the XPCC, as we talked about a second ago, in 2020. Harvard's undisclosed ties to the XPCC officials as late as October of 2023 raises questions about Harvard's compliance with regard to these sanctions that the United States put in place and complicity with an entity responsible for egregious rights violations. Melissa Chen also points out in this series of posts on X, if one were to type decolonize into Harvard's online course catalog search box, you would find that title appears in 7 courses and the descriptions of 18 more. Oppression, liberation, in more than 80 course descriptions, social justice in more than 100. So if we go back to the original premise that universities should be places for open thought and for the mind to grow, but not a place of indoctrination, can I ask you what makes you wonder what they're up to in Cambridge?
Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
But she always knows her place. She's got style, she's got grace. She's a winner. She's a lady. Whoa, whoa, whoa. She's a
Welcome again, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thank you for being with us on this Wednesday morning. Hope your day is off to a great start, perhaps a late night, and a little bit of an early start this morning for Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist with our Super Talk Mississippi news team. She joins us now to talk a little bit about yesterday's municipal elections. Kelly, we've talked in some detail already about Jackson. That was the headline grabber where State Senator John Horn obliterated the sitting mayor, Mayor Lumumba, in Jackson, 75-25. I don't think the fact that Senator Horn won the runoff was a surprise, but the margin, I think, caught some people a little off guard.
You think so? I gotta say, I was one of those people that wasn't shocked, and I don't often make predictions, but I think Horn is going to be the next Jackson mayor. I just see that coming in the general election on June 3rd. And I don't have a crystal ball. That's just my instinct saying, he's the guy with the votes. But he did speak to supporters and had some interesting things to say about moving forward.
We're going to prioritize a restoration of trust and accountability between the city and the taxpayers and residents of Jackson, as well as trust and accountability with Hinds County, the state, and the federal government. We believe that the restoration of that trust is going to yield valuable resources for us, and we also believe that citizens will have a restored faith in its city government.
I think if you can keep the garbage picked up and the water turned on, you're doing great.
I think you're exactly right. I was going to say the exact same thing. In terms of restoring that trust, Kelly, doesn't it start with clean water that comes out of the tap when you turn it on and garbage that's picked up on a regular schedule?
Absolutely. And that's not the only city that's having water issues. So I don't want to single out Jackson. But so we do have the generals coming up, and even though I made that stellar prediction, Horn will be facing some competition in the general elections on June 3rd. He'll face Republican Kenny G and 4 independents, Rodney DePriest, Zach Service, Lily Stewart Robinson, and Kim Wade. Interesting. Independents don't hold primaries, so they move straight to the general election. And with that many candidates on the ballot, there is the possibility that could muddle things up in the general election in June.
And there's a wild card there. If Kenny G brings his saxophone, this thing could be a whole lot closer than we realize.
You took the words right out of my mouth, partner. I love it.
It could be the great equalizer.
So you want to take a look at some results from the coast?
Let's do it.
Biloxi Ward 3, Republican Mike Nail received nearly 62% of the votes to defeat challenger Dixie Newman. He'll appear unopposed on the ballot in the generals. In Gulfport, Ward 1 incumbent Councilman Kenneth Truck Casey Sr. lost to Kendall Lamar Buckner in the Democratic runoff. He'll be unopposed in the generals. In Bay St. Louis, Larry Smith defeated Lonnie Falgett in the Republican runoff for council at large. Smith unopposed in the general. In Moss Point, incumbent Timothy DuBose will serve another term as Ward 3 alderman, defeating Jalen Johnson in the Democrat primary. He's unopposed in the generals. In Pascagoula, Darcy Crew defeated Jamie Foster in the Republican runoff for Ward 3. Crew is unopposed in the generals. In Diamond Head, incumbent Ward 1 Councilman Shane Finley defeated Michael J. Fandel in the Republican runoff. Findlay also unopposed. Kind of an interesting note here while I'm on the coast. Lucedale had a special election yesterday regarding liquor sales. Now, they already sell beer and wine, but that's it. They don't have liquor sales in the city of Lucedale. Residents supported a measure to change that with 69.2% of the votes.
Nice.
30.8% voted against that. Mayor Mike Lee says it's past time to allow liquor sales in the city. He's afraid they're losing business to surrounding counties. And then you have grocery store chains that sell liquor now, and they're losing out on that business. So they're not getting those big grocery store chains. And he's kind of hoping that'll change with this vote. I had to look it up yesterday. George County's still dry. So interesting.
Not many counties anymore in Mississippi. Those blue laws have kind of faded over the last couple of decades.
Yeah, I'm ready for the whole ABC thing. I mean, the state doesn't need to be running alcohol, but that's my personal opinion. Anyway, some more results.
Kelly
from
Bennett,
Philadelphia.
news reporter, sliding over into the editorial side of the business.
I am. It must be my late night last night. All of a sudden, I have opinions. Let me share them with you. In Philadelphia, in the race for Democrat mayor, Leroy Clemens defeated challenger Cassie Henson Hinkman with 52.3% of the vote. So now they've got the Democratic nod for the mayor of Philadelphia. Clemens will now face Republican nominee Jim Fulton in the generals on June 3rd. Fulton ran unopposed in the Republican primary. Clarksdale results. The Democrat runoffs for mayor. Democrat Orlando Payton secured more votes than Bubba O'Keefe. He'll be up against Scotty Meredith in the general election. For Ward 1 Commissioner, Ray Sykes narrowly defeated Beau Plunk. Interesting, winning by just 3 votes in that race. Ward 2, Jimmy Harris defeated Philip Davis and will face Shannon Dixon in the generals. For Ward 3 Commissioner, Eddie Earl had 339 votes to Willie Turner's 267. And in Ward 4 Commissioner, Linda Downing defeated Kim Seals. More? You want more? Canton runoff for Democrat mayor. Tim Taylor defeated Camelia Walker. Taylor, a sitting alderman, will face Republican Chip Matthews and Independents Walter Peoples and Daniel Spivey in the general election. And the Canton runoff, Democrat Ward 5, Janice Diamond defeated Laura Blair. For Democrat Ward 4 in Canton, Cynthia Allen defeated Marky Blunt. Holly Springs had a runoff for Democrat Mayor Charles Terry, defeating incumbent Sharon Gibson. Terry will face independent candidates Tim Liddy and Rodney Lowe in the general election. Gregory Elliott won the special
let's
election.
Pause there just for a second. We'd actually gotten a couple of messages about Holly Springs, and it seems that people were pleased that that runoff went the way that it did on the Democrat side of things. And there have been some pretty significant issues with electric service in Holly Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Public Service Commission has been pretty involved with that, trying to get to the root of that problem. So it appears that new leadership is on the way for Holly Springs, obviously part of Marshall County, where a ton is happening from an economic development standpoint over the last 2 years.
Yeah, some really good things. And
absolutely.
Then you go to the utility district and the water problems. And yeah. So then moving on, Gregory Elliott he won the special election for Mississippi House District 82, representing Meridian. For the Meridian runoff in Democrat Ward 3, Tracy Timms defeated Joseph Norwood. Timms will now face Republican Beverly Henson in the June 3rd special election.
Very good. According to the Department of Revenue, there are currently 36 counties in Mississippi that are dry for beer and light wine sales. Within these 36 counties, there are numerous municipalities that are wet and allow those beer and light wine sales, even if the county itself is dry.
So 36 of 82 counties, that's a pretty good number.
So that's for beer and light wine. There are currently 31 dry counties where the sale of hard liquor is prohibited, according to the Department of Revenue. So there you go.
It's weird how they separate that, don't you think? Like, if you can get beer and wine, why not? Why not just go ahead and approve liquor sales as well? I mean, it's all alcohol. I know.
Hey, just in case you were not with us at 6:15 this morning. On this day, in 1516, Duke Wilhelm IV of Bavaria endorses the German beer purity law, sets standards for the sale of beer in Bavaria, ensuring that beer is only brewed from 3 ingredients: water, barley, and hops. Just so you know, the more you know.
Really?
Yeah. All the way back in 1516.
Is that why German beer is so good?
Well, it's kind of where the beverage that is so tasty for so many has its roots.
Yeah. Well, when I heard you talking about the FDA taking dyes out of our food, which I love that story. I love what's happening there. It's like, where have we been that we have allowed this to continue to happen in our country when other countries have already banned some of this stuff?
That is correct. Quite the day with the municipal elections yesterday, general election coming up June 3rd, and Kelly and the rest of our SuperTalk Mississippi news team will have you covered. If we don't visit before then, thanks as always for stopping by.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
You as well. Kelly Bennett, multimedia journalist with our SuperTalk Mississippi news team, getting you up to date on election results from municipalities across the state of Mississippi. We will wrap it up with you coming up next, Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
That a lot of you already have your summer vacation plans locked in. Maybe you're headed to Disney World, maybe you're headed to the beach, maybe you're headed to the mountains, but some of you like to wait until the last minute. Maybe you're looking for a deal, trying to find a good spot to go where you can get away and unplug and relax. Here is an option that perhaps you haven't considered.
Welcome to El Salvador, home to breathtaking sunsets, world-class surf breaks, and gangbanger Kilmer Abrego Garcia. El Salvador is the destination for Democrats seeking the thrill of bringing violent criminal illegal aliens back to America. Come witness Trump derangement syndrome in its purest form. From Chris Van Hollen to Cory Booker. You may even see John Ossoff. So what are you waiting for, Senate Democrats? Join your colleagues and step into the rhythm of rescue today.
Only in El Salvador. You're pretty well traveled, Lance. Have you?
Never.
You
been
weren't
to
ready
El
for that, were you?
No, I love that though. But I mean, seriously, really. I mean, go down there and have you some margaritas and hang out around the bar, waiting to meet with dignitaries, so you can go hang out with your gangbanging buddies that are in jail that you want to bring back. Love the video, or at least the image that Trump shared about the hand of Mr. Garcia and the code talk that's in tattoos that spells out MS-13. I'm not sure what we're missing here. I don't think you and I or anyone with a conservative mind is missing anything. We see what's going on, but you wonder the motivation. You truly do. When there's people in line wanting to come to this country, doing it legally, but this is your choice.
Some who apparently are willing to pay $5 million for a gold card to get in.
And remember, American hostages were held over there in the Middle East for quite some time, but yet you did nothing, not one thing, to get them back. But man, you were sure dedicated to bringing a bunch of gang-banging prisoners back.
Wait, are you telling me that we didn't have Democrat senators that went to Israel, to the Gaza Strip, to try to regain those American hostages? That didn't happen?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, yeah, the priorities,
Hey, in fairness,
interesting.
In fairness to the country of El Salvador, I did Google El Salvador beaches. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. You know, as long as you stay away from Cinco, should be good. Although I think they've got Cinco on a pretty good lockdown.
I'll say this. I lived down in Mexico for a little while. Loved it. Loved the people. You can't go to the place I lived. It was pristine, beautiful, mountainous, wonderful, hardworking people. And not long after I left, it's been, plagued by violence. And it's the same thing you're seeing in many South American and Central American countries.
Yeah.
Drugs, the demand, the appetite here, and the inability for us to, put a stop to this and do the things the right way. You go back to Fast and Furious. I mean, we've forgotten about that. We were selling guns to drug dealers. Our country was. Let's be realistic here. So, I mean, we've got to really look in the mirror a little bit about what some of the problems are, and we have to curb our demand in some way for what they're producing, which are things that we do not need in this country. We're all upset about red dye number 3. How much fentanyl has killed people? Drug addiction, cocaine, heroin, all this stuff.
Well, they're working on that too.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
no reason we can't have multiple issues
no,
tackle at the same time.
But my experience in another country, when the economies of those countries, especially third world countries, you look north and you go, well, we want everything they have. Well, what's the easiest way to get that? Money. I mean, if the whole system's corrupt and it's easier for you to make a living doing something illegal, there's no recourse to that. Then, you run into these issues. And, you hate to see it because Mexico's a beautiful place with wonderful people. So is El Salvador. They're beautiful and wonderful, hardworking people. But it's the small amounts of them that don't do it right that give a bad name to everybody else. And you are guilty by association, and so are the Democrats for associating with these idiots that they want to bring back to this country.
News yesterday out of the State Department. Marco Rubio making an announcement that the State Department will look vastly different moving forward. We are facing tremendous challenges across the globe to deliver on President Trump's America First foreign policy. We must make the State Department great again. In its current form, the department is bloated, bureaucratic, and unable to perform its essential diplomatic mission. In this new era of great power competition over the past 15 years, the department's footprint has had unprecedented growth and costs have soared, but far from seeing a return on investment, taxpayers have seen less effective and efficient diplomacy. The sprawling bureaucracy created a system more beholden to radical political ideology than advancing America's core interests. They are reshaping the State Department. You can check out that org chart online if that is your thing. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Don't forget the boys from Sports Talk this afternoon will be in Senatobia, Northwest Mississippi Community College. Hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. We're back at it tomorrow morning, just after 6 o'clock. For Lance, I'm Richard. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.